Go, go, go!
My life for Iron.
Alright everyone, welcome back. I'm Winter, and today we're going to learn to play StarCraft. We're talking about workers, mining, resources, and everything in between. Of course, minerals and Vespene gas, the two resources in StarCraft 2. It may seem like a complex system when you first start to get into it, but it's very simple. I'm just going to break it down, the very basics here. There are a lot of little special details, but nothing you really need to worry about, especially when you're starting out up to, like, Masters level. It really doesn't matter. It doesn't vary much from what I'm about to describe here. So the way workers work is you build more workers, you get more income. Yes, that seems very simple. But how does that work? Every time another worker joins the mineral patches here, every time it returns minerals, it returns 5 minerals. And whenever you return Vespene gas, you return 4 Vespene gas. Now there's the matter of mining efficiency. You might see that worker count on the top there, out of 16. This is the same for all races, by the way. SCVs, probes, and drones are all the same when it comes to income rate. But 16 workers is not the limit of optimal mining. Now, I'm going to break that down a little bit more. What I'm trying to say is every worker from 0 to 16, workers 1 through 16 will get 100% more mining. Every worker will mine 100% more potential minerals, but it doesn't stop at 16. You can make more than 16 workers per base. You can go up to about 19 or 20 workers before you see any sort of real efficiency drop off. I'm even going to bring up the math here. I'll bring an article up in the description if you guys want to see all the math. But as you see here, the blue line is the efficiency of each worker. You see up to about 16 workers on that bottom drones harvesting. You get maximum efficiency. Your efficiency keeps going up. You get more money, and that's, of course, very important. But once you get to around 20, 21, 22 workers, that efficiency starts to drop off, and it caps out around 24. At around 24, you add more workers to a base, you're not getting any more money. You might as well be mining from another base. So don't be afraid to go up to more than that in the way of workers, if that makes sense. Don't be afraid to go 17, 18, 19 workers. It's better to have more workers and more money than it is to have less. Let's put it that way. So don't worry about that. Your real focus should be on building workers and just consistently having them as you're starting out. When it comes to gas, I'd say a good rule is as Terran and Zerg to have 1 gas geyser for every about 12 drones. Now I'm gonna show you a trick that every player should know. If you just hover over this top right here, you can see how many workers you have. You can do this while you're playing in game, by the way. This is not just an observer feature. You can see your army supply. That's not the amount of Zerglings. That's your army supply. It's just represented with a Zergling or a Zealot or a Marine. And your worker count. So say I have 43, in this case, well, like 23 drones. 1, maybe 2 gas geysers I can support. A lot of new players, they have a tendency to get too much gas too early and then have no real way to deal with it. So I would recommend for every about 15 workers you have 3 of them mining gas, and that way you'll have a good spread. If you're Protoss, you're a little bit more heavy on the gas. I'd say about 12 workers, you have a gas geyser. So that the simple thing is when you have about 44 to 45 workers, you have maybe 3 gas geysers on 2 bases. Now, when it comes to how many workers you should have in a macro game, like a full-on macro game, in most matchups, there are some exceptions. Like mirror matchups have a tendency to have less workers, but as a Zerg player, I'd say you should aim for about 75 drones in a full macro game. That's a good target to aim for, especially against Terran and Protoss. As a Terran player, you should aim for 65 SCVs. If you can get up there with the addition of mules, which I'll talk about in a moment, you're going to be in a great shape. And as a Protoss, 70 to 75 probes or so. So you should be expanding as a Zerg, taking your second base before 2 minutes. As a Terran, the same thing. For most races, trying to take your second base between 2 and 3 minutes at the latest. And then from there, you should be consistently making workers, even if you're going for a pretty strong army, a pretty strong attacking force. Of course, if you're doing some sort of weird 2-base queen drop all in, this all doesn't apply. But that's a good general rule. I'd say if, just as a general baseline, as Zerg, you can get your second base by 2 minutes and your third base by started by about 4 minutes, and as a Terran and a Protoss, get your second base by 3 minutes, and your third base started by 6 to 6.5 minutes, you're in good shape for the lower levels, especially if you're consistently making workers and everything like that. Now we're going to talk about little exceptions and little special rules. First is the Terran's mule. Because they're unable to make as many workers as the other races, they have something called the mule, using the energy from the orbital command, and it drops down and it mines for a while. A mule mines about the same amount as approximately 5 or 6 SCVs mining at the same time, so it's a significant economy increase, and it doesn't factor in. When you drop a mule down, it doesn't take away from your mining efficiency. That means if you have 20 workers on a base, dropping a mule is not going to make your other workers mine less. That's important. And now we're going to talk about the other exception, which is gold bases. Mules do not mine more money on gold bases, but all other workers do. Gold bases, you'll usually see, have less mineral patches, but they mine 40% faster because workers will return 7 minerals instead of 5, so 40%, if I've done my beautiful American math correctly. So, a gold base will get you more money with less workers, but a gold base has the same level of top income as another base because it has less mineral patches. It'll mine out faster, it takes less workers, but that boost of income with less workers is what makes them so lucrative, especially earlier in the game when you don't have that many workers. So we're just going to do the quick summary. 16 to 20 workers per base on minerals, and then taking a gas every 15 workers or so, maybe a little bit less as a Protoss, is a good general rule. Remember, every build is different, but this is just a good general rule. If you literally have no idea what you want to do, you're taking gas guys too early, which is a big thing I see from newer players, is taking 2 gases and you have 20 drones and now you don't have any mineral income, right? What are you going to do with 800 gas and 200 minerals early on? So be careful about that. And understanding how mules and gold minerals work, as well as those target workers in especially just a straight-up macro game. For a Zerg player, 75, for a Terran, 65, and for a Protoss, 70. But if you get around that 70 mark as any race, you're looking a lot better, even than some Masters players. Some Masters players just forget to make SCVs, probes, drones, whatever. They're like, I'm doing my 2-base build, and we're doing it all day. If you get comfortable with just getting a solid amount of income and working with it, it's better to have more money. You might have more problems with spending it, but it's better to have that money and not need it than need the money and not have it. So I'm going to leave you with this, the summary: get money, get paid, get ladder points. Thank you guys for watching. Good luck, have fun, and happy StarCraft, and I'll see you next time. Make sure to subscribe.